Click for IB Biology. Food webs. In this video we will discuss the building of food webs, some of the advantages and limitations of food webs, particularly in comparison to food chains. There's a blank PDF of this presentation linked down in the description. You can annotate that with your own notes. I've provided 10 questions with answers so that you can secure your understanding, and there may be other additional channel links. In this case, I've put a copy of the food web information there so that you can do this as a separate exercise yourself. Any construction of a food web must be based on the observation of one organism, the ones in this column, being eaten by the organisms in this column. And whilst food webs are easy to draw from information in tables, if we were working within the complex of this kind of a forest here, the time taken to actually observe the eating of one organism by another is considerable. And so whilst in principle we know that large predators consume other prey, have we actually observed it for the basis of our food web building? Now you should pause the video, download this table in front of you, and attempt to draw a food web in which you connecting with an arrow, the source of food to where the food is being consumed. For the purposes of a simple transfer of information and diagram drawing, begin with the strangler fig as the main producer in our food web. Pause the video, download, and construct your food web, returning here, and I'll go through that with you in some detail. The blank arrangement of organisms for our food web is shown here, and what we can do is with an arrow we can track where the energy and matter is going from the strangler fig to the insects, to the gibbons, to the hornbill, to the elephants, and perhaps even to the jungle fowl, although I've never observed that. So in each case, the production of foods by a strangler fig, I have observed all of these organisms actually consuming those fruits as a source of energy. Therefore, these organisms are all primary consumers, occupying trophic level 1. The strangler, of course, the strangler fig, this large forest tree, is of course the producer. In turn, it's possible to observe that the flying lemur is consumed by the cobra, making it a secondary consumer, and indeed by the clouded leopard, secondary consumer. The gibbons are also consumed by the clouded leopard, and again that would make it a secondary level consumer. But theoretically, cloud leopards have been known, although I personally haven't observed this, that cloud leopards can be seen killing and eating cobras. Now that would mean that they are a tertiary consumer, and at one and the same time they are a tertiary consumer and a secondary consumer, illustrating some of the advantages of the food web compared to the food chain. Insects are often eaten by hornbills, meaning that the hornbills can operate at the producer level, at the primary consumer level and the secondary consumer level, which then illustrates another feature of food webs, is that we can show the presence of omnivores. Hornbills are omnivores. They eat both plants and animals. And of course, there are other links. Monitor lizards, interestingly in this food web, monitor lizards are often known to consume dead and decaying material, And in this web, that observation was not made, but they are known to be attacked and eaten by tigers. The tigers are well known to take on jungle fowl, which is a type of forest chicken, and so operating at the secondary consumer level, eating the gibbon, second consumer level. But should a tiger kill a clouded leopard, then again it's operating at the tertiary level like this. And so we're seeing that the food web allows us to notice that the producers are being fed on by multiple herbivores, that some organisms are obtaining their food from multiple sources, that omnivores can be shown in food chains, and that at the top level of consumption, our top predators are feeding both at secondary and tertiary levels in this particular food web. Remembering that each arrow represents the flow of matter, which in turn is energy, but at each level, heat, thermal energy, is always being lost to the system. Comparing to food chains then, our food chains have producers, consumers. We see energy and matter being transferred, but an organism can only occupy one trophic level, and it does not show omnivores. The advantages of the food web, in summary, are multiple herbivory can be shown of a producer. Some organisms can be shown showing predation at different trophic levels. An organism can be the prey of multiple predators. We can put omnivores in. That there's great complexity shown in the flow of energy and matter. Another way of looking at the multiple feeding is to think of this as feeding flexibility and the diversity of diet. However, our food web, for all of its advantages, did not show the presence of decomposers. Decomposers are the organisms which close the cycle of matter by breaking down dead and decaying dead organisms and recycling their carbon compounds into the environment. The major groups of decomposers are bacteria and fungi. They break down dead organisms, feces, and often will develop mycelium and hyphal structures, the fungals do, and deploy the process of extracellular digestion in breaking down these dead organisms. Let's look at the role of fungi in a little bit more detail. Fungi are spread from one place to the other in the form of spores, and they will land on the dead matter here. They will secrete extracellularly, outside the cell, enzymes which break down the dead organism, and then they absorb the nutrient from the dead organism as they go. In doing so, this allows them the energy and the matter to grow tubes into the dead material called hyphae. This hyphae often forms dense networks of mycelium. The mycelium then invades the dead organism, breaking down and consuming it, such as a tree trunk or the body of an animal. And once sufficient nutrient has been absorbed, then they will come back to the surface for the purpose of producing their reproductive structure and the spreading of spores once more, and that would then lead to the complete cycle. And of course, these reproductive structures, which are often produced by fungi, are the mushrooms and toadstools that we see in our grasslands and forests. In this way, the energy and the matter is recycled back to the beginning of food chains and food webs. Here's the link to the next video, the playlist, and the opportunity to subscribe to this channel.